Hey, bro, have you
Hey,
ever heard of quiet quitting?
is that like when you slip a note under your boss's door, or maybe you mime it?
Mm, no, it's not what it is. It's actually the latest craze sweeping TikTok. Well, actually, it's kind of like an old thing that they've just given a new name to.
TikTok does that a lot, right?
Isn't that funny? Yeah, I think. Oh, actually, I don't know. I don't use TikTok. It's a
I don't
Chinese
either.
thing. But it started on TikTok and now it's on you know Instagram Reels and all that good stuff. So yeah, it's wild. The quiet quitting thing is kind of like basically giving just enough to get by at work.
Okay,
And yeah,
and I'm assuming that's what we're talking about today.
well, that's kind of what I was hoping to talk about today because apparently 50% of the country, according to some places, is doing it. I mean, I am. I mean, I'm in Korea. They don't call it quiet quitting here because they don't do that here. But over in Taiwan and China and stuff, they have what's called lying flat, which is similar. Not quite the same, but
Okay,
similar.
all right.
We can get
Well, let's
into
get
it.
into it.
Mhm.
And yeah, I'm not completely ignorant, even though I like to play dumb sometimes.
Ah,
Welcome, guys. This
wait,
is
that's an
Dad
act?
Save the Internet. This is Dad Save the Internet. Today we are talking about this quiet quitting trend, and we're going to give some perspectives from a dad perspective, a Christian perspective, and try and see what maybe some of the outcomes might be from this new trend. So
Hmm.
stick around. eh, Put in your own thoughts, please. We'd love to hear your insights on this and tell us if we're completely off base so that we can ignore your comment.
Ignore your comments. You mean like some kind of
I mean,
quiet quitter might
I
do?
mean, maybe engage with your comment, as long as you're not a troll.
Oh, yeah. Or maybe we'll just, be like a quiet quitter and just not engage at all.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, stick around to the end because eventually we're going to get to some ideas that you might try instead of quiet quitting if you're feeling um, like disengaging from your job or not participating fully with work. There are other options you might want to think about.
There are.
All
There
right,
are.
so bro, what can you tell me about quiet quitting? That apparently, I mean, you want me to jump in with the article that I shared with you yesterday?
Yeah, go ahead. Start with that.
I mean, I can do that. I have the skills, I have the tools and the technology. I can do those things. Let's see if I can figure out how to do it. Yeah, here we go.
Okay.
Oh, hit the button. Wait, please don't break. Oh, is it working?
It is.
Holy
There we go.
guacamole, it is working. All right. So, according to Business Insider, this is an article from Business Insider from 11 days ago. Half, 50%, half of US workers have quiet quit. And now Business Insider says that it's the managers to blame, but we'll find out as we talk about it a little bit. So apparently, this new trend is not new at all. According to the research, um, over the past 2 years, the number of people who have been basically showing up to work but not really showing up to work has been soaring, as they said here in the article, soared. So
Like. Well, I mean, I guess 50% is a big number if that's the number they're using. I'm just be
50% is
curious
huge. Now,
what the
now,
definition is.
well, yeah. I mean, what is the definition? Quiet quitting. The term quiet quitting, first of all, came from a viral video that was again mentioned. As I said, mentioned on TikTok. They talk about
Mhm.
quiet quitting. I didn't actually see the video about quiet quitting because if you search quiet quitting anywhere nowadays, it's just
No, it's
everything.
everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen quite a
But
few.
yeah, Insider posted a story in March called "Coasting Culture," where they talked about the same thing. You can check that out. Um, and so a lot of people, some people have said, "Oh, this is just an old thing. This is just people being lazy. They're just people who aren't doing their job." But if that were the case, I don't think it would get as high as 50%. So I'm gonna
Again,
stop sharing this.
I would want to see how they're defining that 50% number? Are they looking at actual productivity? Are they looking at an objective standard? Are they looking at people's self-reporting? Are they looking at managers reporting? Curious.
According to the article, it was a
According to the
survey of just, well, hey, that's all I got to go on.
Yeah,
Survey
yeah,
of just
absolutely.
over 15,000 Americans. Now,
That's a big number.
population, it's a big number. It's a
No,
pretty
I
good
mean,
size.
most of
And
our surveys are on a 1,000 sample for a 320 plus million
well,
person
exactly, yeah. So I
nation.
mean, so 15,000 is pretty good. And so basically what they're saying is quiet quitting is basically a measure of employee engagement. Okay?
Okay.
And the employee engagement, they said, had been on the rise, but during the second half of 2021, right along with massive quit rates, which they call, what do they call that?
The Great Resignation.
The Great Resignation. I quit. People moving off to now that's a totally other topic that we could touch on. I mean, I've read that a lot of people who did resign and found new jobs are now regretting that they resigned from their old jobs. So yeah, go figure. I mean, go figure. Quit one thing. It's like Grandpa used to always say.
I was going to say, quick bit of dad advice. Wherever you are,
What were you going to say?
There you are.
Wherever you go, there you are. That's what I was going to say. Exactly what I was going to. Can you tell that we're brothers? We had the same upbringing.
What's funny is we both still remember all these little quips in there.
Well, that's why we're here to help bring these quips to a wider audience, right?
Of course, when I was 13, I went, "Well, duh, Grandpa."
Well, duh. Yeah, spoken like a true 13-year-old. So what they're saying is the 50% number is a combination of actively disengaged workers, which they say is about 32%. Or that's they're calling the actively disengaged, the quiet quitters. They're not quiet, they're loud.
Try
that. Disengaged.
Try that with your stick shift car. Yeah, it's actively disengaged, meaning you press the gas and nothing happens. You can't be actively disengaged.
I could see you rolling down the hill. I'm actively disengaged as you roll backwards down the hill. Oh my God.
Yeah, you've experienced that before.
Yeah, I have. It's been a while, but yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, but so the 50% number, it's a little bit of creative math, as many things in the media and surveys do come from these days. But nevertheless, I'm not in that share screen. We can come back to it later on if we want to. But so some have said that this is based on what this is just a continuation. You were saying earlier, it's just a continuation of the Great Resignation.
The Great Resignation idea. This is what some people are saying. Yeah.
Okay. What's that about?
Well, the idea being there was this massive period where, so there's a few ways you can look at this problem. You can look at it as a social, not problem. I don't know. A few ways you can look at this trend. There's a social side.
Trend's a good
there's an economic side. There's a cultural side, and there's the incentives is with one of the ways to look at it. And so from an economic perspective, from a purely economics, work is a commodity. There's a reason we call it human resources. And so during the period in which after lockdowns, there became this huge demand for labor that wasn't being met because of the incentives of lockdown. A lot of people were still receiving extra money from government, all these kinds of things. And that huge demand meant the only way they could fill those positions was to increase wages. So, lo and behold, McDonald's is paying $15 an hour in a lot of cities or more.
Well, yeah, and part of that, is 2 years ago. Yeah, I mean, part of that is certain cities mandating $15 an hour, and others said, and then, but yeah, it comes down to, if you want to find the workers to work, you're going to have to pay them more.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
unfortunately, and this was a government created problem, like you mentioned, is that the government gave money for people to sit around and do nothing. And I see the same exact problem here in Korea. Depending on what city you live in, it's more easy. It's much easier to get money. I've heard stories from people who are, you know, young guys young guys and young ladies. I don't want to be too uh, uh, uncouth, but yeah, they get free money from the government to sit around and do nothing, play video games all day. Um, and that's kind of become a trend here. I mean, in Korea, that's almost worse than the quiet quitting thing, because these folks, both here in Korea, but also I've talked to people in Taiwan, and I've read some stories about this happening, and I've seen some videos about this happening in China itself. The big great what is China? I mean, Russia was the big bear. What China is like the dragon.
Dragon.
So the great dragon. Yeah, they have a trend in the culture in China called lying flat. And there are people who actually do it, and they brag online about how they are professional li- lie flatters, liar life. They're professionals at lying flat. And they have like rating systems. Oh, this guy, he's really good at lying flat. Meaning, what
Champion.
they do?
Champion
Yeah, they're
flat liar.
champion flat liar.
As opposed to a champion flat earther. I don't know.
Yeah,
Flat liar.
so this lying
Layer.
flat
I mean,
movement, right? No, not layer. What is it, like layer? Anyway,
do you
so
lie
the
or do you
lying
lay?
flat, you lie. You lie. God, I was just flashback to that. Somebody said that to Obama back in Congress once. I was
Wow,
like, whoa,
that is a
that was
throwback.
a
Yeah.
long time ago. That was ages ago, right? Um, so
It was before yesterday, which means it was
ages
forever
ago.
ago.
Forever and ever.
So
I was still in the
going
States
back
back then.
to the trend in
So going back,
in I mean China, but also spreading into places like Taiwan as well, of the lying flat.
hmm yeah. So this lying flat culture, these guys have got it down to a science. They're not just disengaged from work. They're disengaging from culture. They're disengaging from cultural expectations.
Mhm.
I mean, no more dating.
Mhm.
No more, I mean, which would make some feminists ecstatic, I'm sure. No more, well, I mean, uh, basically, no more family, no more having kids. We don't want the responsibility, they say.
Mhm.
They just want to go home. They want to go, and they hang out at like PC. We call them PC bongs here in Korea, computer rooms, where
Oh,
they
okay.
are PC cafe or internet cafe, and play video games. And then when they run out of money, they go find themselves a little quick part-time job. Bada bing. There's
Yeah.
a street
What was
that,
interesting about
yeah,
the
go
video
ahead.
that you shared from talking about that
Mhm.
particular version of it was the concept for them of they could go and work for a day and take those wages and play for 3 days, they said.
Mhm.
The
Yeah, yeah.
best of them. And what was
Yeah.
also interesting was
The
going
best.
back to the economic side was the streets lined with business owners with little sandwich
Oh, yeah.
boards
Yeah.
trying to beg for workers.
Yeah.
And it's a
And that
complete inversion from what you see in some areas where the workers go out and hang out on the corner and somebody comes by with a truck and says, "Hey, I'll pay for this and that and this,"
mhm.
and everybody
Well,
jumps in.
that's right.
Complete
Well,
inversion of that
video
idea.
the video explained how that was an inversion of what it was just a few years ago,
Mhm.
pre-pandemic, when
Right.
the street would be lined with workers, and the company bosses would come and pick up workers. It's totally reversed now. They're down there,
Right.
the bosses are down there looking for people to work because they just can't find the workers, who are going to commit. Yeah,
Right.
really,
Right.
really fascinating
So
stuff.
that economic thing of labor being a resource that has supply and demand coming into play, you see this over and over again in history, where people will. There are times when wages rise because there's enough growth going on within the economy and within business that they just need people to fill jobs so that they
Hmm.
can get work done, and that's when wages rise.
Yeah.
When there is a surplus of labor and not enough productivity, then wages are going to fall. And I think that's one of the things you've actually started to see in the current environment is we're in the shift where a lot of people who have decided to do the quiet quitting because they either jumped to a different job or they stayed home for 2 years and then had to go get a job because the government benefits ran out. Now they're going, okay, I'm not happy in this position. I'm not happy with what I'm doing. I'll just try this other method. And now we're seeing wages start to fall and massive layoffs start to happen because that incentive structure has shifted and not everybody's completely up to speed on the circumstances at the moment.
Well, part of that I think comes from people not being up to speed on the fact that labor is a commodity.
Well,
There
yeah,
are
that's
tons of
part of
people
it.
who don't seem to understand the concept of, you know, when it comes to wages, you play a part in your wage.
Mhm.
You're negotiating. When you're taking a job as an employee, you are actually selling something. You're
Mhm.
selling your time and your labor. So, but I had a question for you, bro.
Excuse me.
You mentioned that, you know more about what's going on in the States than I do. Everything I know about the States, I get from you and the news. So, what do you see when you go to see the businesses around your neck of the woods? Because I hear stories from other parts of the country, and it doesn't sound that great.
Well,
Oh,
what do I see? So so this is one of those areas where within the US there is
mhm.
a great experience change, a difference, and also I want to say news difference, but it's really a understanding of the facts on the ground in different states. And if you are in some of those states, you really don't even know. And so, for instance, we live in Idaho, pretty red state. We have lots of friends in California, pretty one of the most blue states.
Pretty blue, pretty blue. It's
And the when basically when we would have private conversations and tell people about our experience here in Idaho, where yeah, we shut down for that 2 weeks to spread the curve or 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And
yeah.
then that wasn't a Freudian slip. No, we shut down
To
for about
spread
2 weeks.
the curve. I think you mean spread the curves, because that's
Well,
when
I
all the
mean,
people
if it
gained
is a
all the weight,
curve and you're
right?
flattening it, you are spreading out the curve.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. But
I don't know.
everybody's staying at home. They're getting fatter. They're spreading the
Right.
curves, right? So
So
anyway,
we
I got him. I got him.
spreading the curves. Oh
All
man.
right. So
Oh, don't be
flattening the
obtuse,
curve,
David.
right?
Goodness. So yeah, the 2 weeks of flattening the curve here in Idaho was it was a full 2 weeks of just you basically were shut down and you really only went a couple of places. Then they did a plan for opening things up, where I think the very last things that opened up were like nightclubs because of the close contact, because of the
Mhm.
large crowds and other things and they were still figuring things out. But in general, most people's lives went back to normal pretty darn quick. Whereas
Yeah,
two
I don't
years
imagine there's a
in,
lot of nightclubs in your neck of the woods. In your neighborhood, I
there's
don't imagine there's a
where
lot.
we are close to Boise, so there are quite a few. There are some in
Boise,
Boise.
Boise.
There is no Z in Boise.
Boy, okay, boy.
Yeah,
Forget it. Boise, Boise, Boise,
Boise.
Boise. I
Yeah,
don't know.
that is the
Boise,
proper local
Boise.
way to say it because there is no Z. It is Boise.
Okay,
Der.
okay.
So, We would have conversation with friends in places like California and Hawaii, and 2 years in, they're still expected to pretty much stay home unless they really have to go somewhere. And to tell them what it was like for us, of like, no, we're basically back to normal within 6 months or within 3 months, really.
Mhm.
They
Well,
had
it was
they had
kind of
a
like,
hard
yeah, yeah.
time. They had a
Mhm.
hard time fathoming that, both
They
because
had a hard time
of
fathoming.
yes,
Was it really that bad? I mean, California. I mean, I know Hawaii was bad because we talked because of the
from the
folks went there,
people
but
from many of the people that we talked to, they had a hard time
mhm.
fathoming it, both from an experiential standpoint, because nobody in their community would be willing to do that, and also
To do what? Nobody really. No one
to
would be
to
willing to just
to to
just go
go
back to
back to
normal.
normal until the powers that be told them it was okay to go back to normal.
Oh my goodness. Oh Lord.
And
Yes.
I,
Never
again,
mind. I'm not gonna say
these are
it,
the
but
people that I spoke to. This is not across the board, but you look at the statistics and they kind of bear out, because it was a cultural thing of of their idea about what was right in the situation was what one side of the topic said, because some people made it political.
mhm, mhm.
And I mean, this is what
I don't
we're
think you
great thing
should
about.
use the past tense there. I don't think you should use. I don't think you should say it was a culture. I think it still is a cultural thing,
Oh,
and I
I wouldn't
agree.
disagree with
Yeah.
that. I'm just saying at the
Mhm,
time. And this is one of the great things about having 50 different states, is they're all little experiments, and you can find
mhm,
out after the fact who was right about a situation if you're willing to pay attention and look. So,
mm.
those friends who were under that for 2 years were very
Florida.
nervous about coming to visit or anything like that. But it was also it was a difference between, or not difference. It was a combination of the culture around them, what the government was saying and demanding locally, and what the primary news sources in that community would tell you.
That's a huge, huge
And so
difference.
that's
That
why
has
I
a
say
huge
it was
impact. Yeah.
fat. That's why I say it was hard for them to fathom the idea of going back to normal as soon as we did.
Mhm, mhm.
And then, of course, the states that did go back to normal quickly got branded as murder factories.
Oh yeah, you're killing grandma. You're killing
Right. And
grandma.
that's one of those things of that idea of just like, wait until the facts come out. Wait until some information or some studies
Oh,
come
you
out.
can't do that. Can't
But
do
if
that.
you go back now and look, there was very, very minimal difference between the two different approaches as far as the outcomes in one area. I'm not going to say which area of life, but if you look at the economic side, we had a shortage of workers. This is really to answer your original question. I know it's a long way around. We had a shortage of workers in which you'd go to a restaurant and you'd wait longer, or you'd go to
Mhm.
a place and you might wait longer to get service for a period of time. Now, the businesses are still trying to get the workers. A lot of them are newer in that job, and the service may not be as good as it was, but they're still struggling through that.
Hmm.
In other places, it's worse.
So okay, so you're still struggling. I mean, there's not as big a wait time now. The workers, the companies are able to find the workers. Is that what you're saying, or they're
The
just
companies are able to find the workers, but either they're new in that area, or they're new in that job, so they're still
uh
being they're still training people. There's still a lot of turnover, because
mhm,
people are still job hopping, and I think potentially,
job up.
I mean, there's this quiet quitting potentially being coming out, where the uh, attention to detail, attention to customer service, things like that are not as
Hmm.
important. People are still
Hmm.
friendly here, but going to a different state, for instance, you don't necessarily see the same friendliness, and the and the service is still lacking. You don't see people going above and beyond to really deliver customer service as often as I used to.
Okay, and that brings up the additional part of the problem, I think, because now here in Korea, we didn't have now the whole lockdown thing, it was kind of different here. I mean, they did shut down businesses, they shut down nightclubs, they shut down bars and restaurants. Um, they did this weird thing of curfews, which was very strange. Like a place could open, but they had to close by varying times. They would change it depending on what if you lived up in Seoul, um, everything was shut down much earlier than down here in Ulsan, where I live. But basically, like if you had a restaurant, you had to close 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. Nobody after 9 o'clock. That was restaurants, coffee shops. At one point, it included bars. Which made it really nice on my street because all the bars were closed and you could sleep. You didn't have a bunch of people going crazy screaming down the streets. But but it would fluctuate. Sometimes it would be midnight, others it would be 11 and 10, back to 11, back to 9. It was just all over the place. It was so confusing. And then they did the vaccine push, and they required everybody to have QR codes in their phones, and then we got a new president. And it was all gone. Done. So we're all back, kind of essentially back to normal now. I think there's still certain public buildings you still have to wear a mask and stuff, but yeah, most they're talking about getting rid of that too. So yeah.
So how has that affected the experience going to businesses?
Well, the biggest problem that we had going to businesses was the vaccine thing. When they did the vaccine passport, whatever. Of course, I'm not, I wasn't going to go in with that whole, show me your papers type of business. So we just stopped going to restaurants. You could still go in by yourself. You could still order takeout. You could still grab food to go. But if you were going anywhere with a group of 2 or more, you had to have your papers, and I wasn't going to play that game because plus, we had the kids and everything like that. So, yeah, we just said forget about it. We stayed
It's
home.
hard enough to go to a restaurant with kids.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's so much nicer because we used to try to go out more often, and it's so much nicer to stay at home because the kids are just.
We like to go now. I mean, now that our kids are older,
your kids are older. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, older. So yeah, they're not little ones. They're both in elementary school. But they like going to restaurants and stuff. So now it's a different experience, especially with grandma. Mm-hmm. Grandma's there a lot. Oh, but grandma. I think we've talked about the economics of it. I think one important thing we want to add, or I would want to add, is the idea that you brought up and didn't really get into, which is labor is an economic resource. And so when you have a job, you're selling your time, mm-hmm. which largely is valued based on your education, experience, and expertise.
Yeah.
So if you are going into a brand new job that you've never done, you're going to start at the bottom. If you're going into a job and you have no education, no experience, and no expertise, you're going to start at the bottom. But as Thomas Sowell,
that's how it used to be. That's how it used to be. But okay, but nowadays, I mean, with the minimum wage hikes and stuff like that, you're not being paid for the value that you bring to the company. You're being paid for the value that the government has put upon your time. So boom, your time is worth a minimum of $15.
I understand. And if you want to get into that, go read Thomas Sowell's research.
Yeah, I was going to say, Thomas
Sowell. Because Thomas Sowell has brought up so often that nobody stays at the bottom, or pretty much almost
they shouldn't.
Statistically insignificant numbers of people stay at the bottom. Exactly. Everybody moves up because the minute you gain experience, you start getting raises. The minute you gain experience, you're more capable and more ready for other jobs that might pay more. Whoa. And that I think is a really important factor that we need to, when you're thinking about your own work and this quiet quitting idea, is you are being paid for the value that you're bringing to the job or to the business. And if what you can do for them isn't worth more, then they can't stay in business.
I can't hear you.
Did I
What'd
lose
you
you
say?
somehow?
You dropped off for a second. You
Odd.
said isn't more, and then
If you're, I was quiet quitting. If
your mic
you're,
was
I
anyway.
was waiting for that. I was waiting for that. Yeah, my mic was anyway. But no,
Uh-huh.
the point being, if your actual deliverable value to the business is not higher than what they're paying you, they go out of business and you both
Yeah.
lose.
Oh, exactly. But see, we've gotten to the point where we don't even think about it like that. But and the other problem with that calculation is, okay, this used to be a very easy cut and dried equation. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you provide good value to your employer, you will move up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you continue to provide good value to your employer, you're going to get better. You're going to get raises. You're going to move up. And then we ended up in this world that we're in right now, where it's kind of like, uh, and I think that this is part of the reason for quiet quitting. Okay, hear me out. Hear me out. I think part of the reason why many people have switched over to quiet quitting is because they realize that they do work and they don't get rewarded for it. They do a good job and they don't get rewarded for it with a raise, or if they do get a raise, it's just a raise to compensate for inflation. Don't even get me started on inflation.
Or it's
Um,
a
cost of living raise or something, right?
not even that, but so often in corporate culture, there's been this habit of, we're going to give you not a raise, but we're going to promote you, but it doesn't include a raise. You get a
Oh,
title
right. Well,
bump.
they add more. Yeah, you get a
You get a
title, but you don't get
prestige.
any additional
Yeah.
money. You get more responsibility,
Yeah.
less time off, and no raise.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
is that common these days?
It,
People really doing that?
it's been a thing for a long time, but I don't know how common it is specifically right now, because everybody's still
It's been so
begging
long since,
for
yeah.
workers.
Whoa, it's me on the screen. And oh my gosh, what happened? No, the so I was pointing out that part of the problem is people feel like they're not being rewarded for the job that they're doing. Okay, so the article that I was reading from earlier from Business Insider talks about how this is the management fault. It's the workers disengaged because the managers aren't doing good enough a job to encourage them and help them to find their way, and and worrying about their life and their lively and what's happening in their life and stuff like that, as if it's the manager's job to worry about every aspect of every one of their employers. Now, don't get me wrong, I've been in management most of my career. Of course, as a manager, you want to take care of your employees. Not only that, you've got massive corporations that are doing everything they can to improve the work life balance, and still you've got quiet quitting. They're doing stuff. They're giving people extra time off. They're giving people extra benefits at work. You've got the fancy campuses where they do their businesses and stuff like that. They've got pet daycares. They got regular daycares. They got daddy daycares. They got every kind of daycare you could possibly think of. You got a Starbucks in the lobby, and you got all kinds of perks and benefits with lattes and freaking caramel swirly things. I mean, there's a TikTok or a video I saw of a lady complaining about her job where they only have a couple of little cookies instead of usually there's like a whole tray of cookies, but there's only like 5 different varieties today. This kind of nonsense that companies are doing to get their new people to come and work for them, and yet they're still quiet quitting, tells me that it's not a problem with the management, unlike what the article that I read earlier said. It's
You
a
you forgot
problem.
you forgot about the
Go ahead.
gym time in the
Oh yeah, gym time. Yes, gotta have that. Gotta have
or the
that.
yoga
That that
or
that
the
that extra time in the gym.
meditation room or whatever
I
else
don't
you
think
get.
it's a matter of companies aren't doing enough. I think it's a matter of people aren't getting rewarded for the work that they do. Whether either it's for either they're not getting paid enough, or they're not. I hate to bring it up. I mean, we may get banned from YouTube for bringing it up, but the whole, I mean, the kind of equity culture, I'm trying to be gentle here. The equity culture of, well, we
I don't know
gotta
where you're
have a
going.
certain number of women on the board. We got a
Okay.
certain number of people of color on the board of directors and in the management level. We're not gonna hire based on merit anymore. We're gonna hire based on your skin color or your sex or the gender that you identify with, and that's what we're going to base all of our hiring and promotions and raises and everything on.
Right.
That type of
I
culture and
think
the growth of that culture has really driven a stake into the heart of the American business and American workers, because who wants to work for that culture? Not me.
there are people that do because they're the ones who are encouraging that,
Mhm.
obviously.
Sure.
I think that you've hit a couple of points, or you've hit about the rewards for the work, which is what you've always been told. I think there's
Mhm.
more to it than that. There is a culture issue. I think that there was an article I read years ago now that talked about those perks, and somebody had done a study because especially the big tech companies were talking about, we have the most generous and uh, we actually it wasn't even generous. It was just something, I can't remember which company it was, but they basically said people can take off as much time as they want. We don't have, leave
Yeah.
time. You can just take
Yeah.
off, and if you need to go off and do a week or a month or whatever, and take your time and refresh and recharge, so you can come back and hustle again, you go
Mhm.
ahead and do it.
And you'll still get paid.
At the same time,
Mhm.
what they found was that the culture within those companies was so much go go go, perform or die, and it was
Mhm.
literally, you perform or you're gone.
Yeah.
Nobody was taking any time off,
Well, sure.
because
Because
the policy was one thing, the culture was another thing. And I think
okay.
you're seeing some of that too. You're seeing overbearing culture of hustle, 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 go, go, go. So that, and then but then out loud, they talk about work life
Well, sure,
balance
and then
and
people
other
look
things
back
like
and go,
that.
"Well, yeah, if I take this time that you've promised me," which I'm sure many people are doing now, they're, "Well, you've promised me all this time. I'm gonna take it now."
Mhm.
And so
And that,
now they're calling it quiet quitting, and now the company is not getting the productivity that they are so famous for. Perhaps.
I think,
I
I
don't know,
think
but
that partly that's
let's yeah.
one of those factors coming into it.
Mhm.
So the other factor I've wondered about is, the videos where I've heard people talk about, oh, I'm quiet quitting for these reasons. One of them is the compensation factor. They don't feel like they're getting rewarded for their work. One of them is just flat out overwork. And I know we talked about in China the philosophy of 996, work from 9 to
Ooh.
9, 6 days a week. That
Mhm.
is flat out overwork. Here in the
Yeah.
US, you get the same kind of thing with, you get a work phone, we can always reach you and we expect an
Mhm.
answer. Culturally, that's an issue. It may not be official policy that we always expect an answer within the day, but that's the cultural expectation. If somebody's at 3 a.m. emailing you, they kind of want an answer soon, because then
Man, yeah, I have been out of the loop for a long time of the work culture in America. Geez, is it that bad? Has it gotten that
there
bad? I
in
mean,
some
granted,
places,
I
in
when I
some,
was in the States, I was working on
yeah,
ships for how many years was I working on ships? When you get off a ship, you're done. You go
right.
on vacation, I mean, you might have to go do your training and stuff like that, but when you get off the ship, you're not on the ship anymore. They're not going to send you an email say, "Hey, I need to."
So
Although
one
I
of the
do
guys
remember, yeah,
one of the
20
guys
years
I
ago
hunt
when I
with
was doing that.
one of the guys I hunt with,
Mhm.
we go up the mountain. We're
Mhm.
camping, no signal. You can't get a signal. You wake up before dawn, you're hiking, you're humping through the hills, and you get out to this rocky outcropping that's overlooking these mountains and this beautiful lake. It's amazing, it's gorgeous. And then all of a sudden, everybody's phones start going bzz, ding, 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 ding. And one of the guys, because of the job he has, or he's particularly used to have, the job he's got now is better, but the one he used to have, he'd be up there typing responses to emails, carrying, he's got his bow straddled in one arm and he's sitting here on his phone typing emails and stuff like that, because that was the expectation. And
Wow,
because he
that's
was in
crazy.
management, particularly. So it was like you could never just take literal time off. And I think that is part of the cultural thing. So people talking about burnout, they've got something of a point. I do think that,
But see, okay,
I do think that
see,
that is part of it.
for the from the management perspective, look, I remember, I mean, it was 2002, 2003. I mean, I know 20 years ago, I took a break from a management job. I took a break for a week to fly to Hawaii to go spend time with my family. And what? I spent half the time that I was there in Hawaii. I didn't have a smartphone. They didn't have smartphones back then, but I had my daggum laptop and I was doing stuff on the computer, sending emails, doing extra work from the hotel in Hawaii instead of being sitting there on the beach or at the pool. I mean, so yeah, there is a certain element of that, and it's just as bad here in Korea. It's just as bad in Taiwan.
Right.
I mean, but in Korea and Taiwan, this comes down onto the employees too. I mean, to non-management level. When I was in management, you didn't want your employees to work overtime. You wanted them to go home, because if you worked overtime, you got to pay them extra. You got the managers to work overtime. You pay them salary. Exactly. The managers work on salary. They don't get paid overtime. So you those guys get burnt out. That's why you pay them a little extra, and you're supposedly pay a little extra. But you want those workers to go home. And not in Korea, not in Taiwan. The Korea's in Taiwan. It's not quite 996, but it's pretty close. I mean, and they are also getting burnout. And add on top of that the cultural and societal pressures of other different cultures and societies. But anyway,
hey,
getting away from the burnout side,
let's take a quick
you're gonna take a break
on this burnout topic, because everybody needs one, and we are 42 minutes into this thing.
Holy
so
guacamole's a
if you need a break, I would suggest reading a good book.
Bingo.
As I always do.
A good break.
Here is my first book. It's not that new, but it is The Treasure of Capric. It's on the screen there. It's a great adventure story. It's people who are not just burnout, they are flat out tired because they live in a world of darkness and fog and gloom, and they're looking for some light. So, and it's not the burning hill on the front of the screen there, so, or on the top of the page. So if you want a good book, if you want a good break, go read some adventure, get out of your own head, get out of your own world, and join a new one. It's The Treasure of Capric, the first book in the King of the Cave series, and you can find it at books2read.com / that is the wrong thing.
Uh-oh.
/
Smear is a good one, but yeah.
Treasure of Capric, different book there. Anyway, search for me, Brandon Wellborn, or search for The Treasure of Capric, and you'll find it. Wrong title there. We can put it up somewhere else.
That's all right.
Anyway,
you'll figure it out. Put it in the
my
comments.
Mistake.
I mean, we'll fix it in post-production.
Post-production. We won't bring a live show. Anyway, that's a good break.
Oh yeah, I think that's a good break, and
all right,
and it gives us a chance to. Okay, we're talking about escaping in your book there. Let's talk about some solutions rather than escapes.
Yeah.
Okay.
One because more quick. Can I add one more piece to this cultural idea?
No. Yeah, go ahead.
If you are constantly on the same tools that you're using in work, meaning your phone, your computer, your TV, you're constantly on electronic stuff, it doesn't matter. There is no work-life balance because you're always on the same things. You're always going to feel burned out. And I think a lot of that needs to come into play is until we develop personally. And this gets into the conversation about how to escape from this idea and how to avoid falling into this temptation to quiet quit. I think because we want to talk about the outcomes, but I think the culture of everybody feels busier, even the people who are not working, all the time. They feel hectic, they feel harried, they feel like life is just nonstop, go, go, go. And everybody feels to some degree stressed from that. It may not just be your job that you're stressed about.
Without a doubt.
It's
Without a
very
doubt.
likely
Hmm.
not just your job.
Hmm. Well,
And
because
yet,
you feel stress from other things. They feel
yeah.
stress from the. I mean, how many studies have been talked about with the stress from social media?
Mm-hmm.
You spend too
And
much
it's
time
not
on
just
social media.
teenagers, it's the adults
Yeah,
too.
no, it is the adults too. I mean, and that's why I mean, I don't know about you, but I got a rule in my house. If you are in a room by yourself, it's okay. Use your phone all you want. But if you're in a room with another person, no electronic devices unless you can use it in less than 30 seconds. So if you got to make a
Mm,
quick phone call, boom,
mm,
go ahead. You got
okay.
to check a message real quick, boom, go ahead. But leave your phone down, put it somewhere else. If you have to do something longer that's going to take longer than 30 seconds, go around the corner, go into the other room. So you're, because I don't want my
So
kids,
a lot of potty
I don't
breaks
want my
in your
kids
house
to
then.
have this. I don't want my kids to see this instead of their daddy's face. This is my, yeah. See there? Um, a lot of
It's a
potty
lot
breaks.
of
Yeah,
yeah, a lot
I
of
mean, yeah, spend 45 minutes on the toilet, but no, it's been the best thing in the world for me
mhm, mhm,
because I disconnect. Just shut it all off. Put the
mhm.
phone down, leave it in the other room. Engage with your family, engage with your kids, and engage with your wife.
Yeah.
Because I saw something. We'll talk about it another time. Don't have your phone in your hands. Put it down, because even if you're not looking at it, it still is distracting. And not looking at it, even if it's in your hands. I mean, look, you think I'm listening to you, but I'm not. Or you think I'm really giving you my full attention because I got my phone in my hand? You think, oh no, as soon as I turn away, he's gonna look at his phone. Anyway, so put your phone down, put it down.
And well, and
Okay.
same thing uh would be these
Oh, the earbuds. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
people who
Those things
they
are.
don't have their phone in their hand, but they're
Mhm.
constantly listening to something. No, I think there's value in those, but it's the moderation part. If you constantly getting input, you never have time with your own thoughts, and so you're going to
Mhm.
constantly feel behind,
Mhm.
stressed,
Mhm.
wigged out about all
Mhm.
this stuff. And then I think
Yeah.
the job is then becomes the scapegoat
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
say,
Blame it on the
well,
job.
there's my problem. That stresses me out all the time. And so
Mhm.
therefore I'm gonna react in this way. And it's a passive aggressive way to react. Really? To
Well,
say like,
it
I'm
doesn't
just
it
gonna
doesn't it doesn't take responsibility and put the responsibility where it lies. And that's what our job is as dads.
okay.
Dads and men, we have to take responsibility and put it where it is.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest things I didn't like about that article is that it says, "Oh, it's not the worker's fault, it's the management's fault." Come on.
Hmm.
Come on. Let's take a little responsibility here, folks.
There's two
Let,
parties
let's
involved.
There's always two parties involved, so there's a responsibility to be had across the board. You know, if you are not feeling valued at your job, okay, maybe it's because you're not putting enough work into it.
Mm.
Now, if you are if you've tried for years putting all the value and putting all the work in and you're still not getting rewarded for it because, maybe your company's got some kind of woke policies or something like that,
Or
or what,
maybe your management's,
or
not
maybe you do have bad
running the
management.
country well, or another
Yeah,
Freudian
there's
slip
that
there.
possibility.
Maybe
Yeah,
your
right.
management isn't
Mhm.
running the company well, and they don't have the cash flow to do that sort of to increase wages, for instance.
And that's very, I mean, especially with this day and age, especially like you said, with not running the country well, with the economy the way it is, there may not be cash flow to be had. There may not
Yeah.
be things to be had. And the many people, we have this society that always puts the responsibility on somebody else.
Mhm.
You know, Inflation, oh crud! What are we going to do about inflation? Inflation happens because why? Because there was bad monetary policy. Because there's the only way out of inflation is not the Fed raising interest rates. Okay, Fed can raise interest rates all day long. All that does is slow down spending, right? It slows down investing. It slows down
Which
people
is
buy.
which
I
is
mean, I
what
know that. Okay, look.
slows
Okay,
things down and brings down inflation.
but if you want to get out of inflation, produce more. I
That is
mean,
the other way.
actually be more productive. I mean,
That is the
that's
other
the
way.
best way to get out of, because if you're producing more, I mean, producing more labor, doing more work, making more things, doing more. But anyway, that's not the point I'm getting at.
Stop adding
Kind of
money
is the
to the
point.
to the fire.
Stop adding money stop adding money. That just makes things worse. The point I'm getting at, if you're not getting what you want from work, if you're not getting the reward that you need, maybe you need to try something else. I mean, instead of
Perhaps.
quietly quitting, just quit. Just quit.
Just quit.
Yeah, just
So
quit. Don't quit quietly.
can I ask
Just
a question? Can I
no. Yes.
can I ask
Quit
a
asking
question?
questions. Yeah.
Can we in 3 minutes talk about the potential outcomes individually and kind of culturally or within society that we see from this trend? If this trend continues, what's going to happen in your own life if you do it, and what's going to
Mhm.
happen societally or broadly in the economy if this happens? Quickly.
Okay, well, you want my if you decide if you should decide to quiet quit. Okay, number one, you're throwing away your value, your own personal
Mm,
value, valuation of yourself.
mhm.
You're saying, okay, you know, I I'm not going to get what I want, or I'm not going to get rewarded, or I'm not, So you're saying that all of your value is now in the hands of whoever pays you, and all that you are worth is what they pay, what they decide to pay you. So you're no
Which is one
longer
of the
making
primary complaints is
right,
that
right.
that
Hmm. Hmm.
you're not paying me what I'm worth.
Well, sure. It's but at the same time, by quitting quietly quitting, you're
You're
not
reducing
addressing
that.
the issue.
Yeah.
You're not addressing it at all. You're just
Okay.
saying, okay, well, yeah, I guess if you're not going to pay me what I'm worth, then I'm just going to do what do the work that, that I'm worth, or that
Okay.
you're paying. So therefore, blah blah blah. So you're not improving yourself. You're not improving the company that you're part of. You're definitely not making the world a better place. So if the trend continues, number one, companies are going to suck. It's just going to suck to work there, because
Mhm.
the people who are pulling their more than their own weight are just going to get fed up and frustrated, and they're going to join the ranks of the quiet quitters. It's something that happens in a communist society. You can see it
Mhm.
happen, you know
Yeah.
uh
The incentive
and
to work and do well diminishes.
exactly. So that I mean, you're just going to see it on a ever broadening, ever expanding scale. So on the individual scale, you're just your motivation to improve is just going to continue to go down.
Mhm.
Okay, because you've got to dig deep inside for the fire. If no one is patting you on the back, nobody's going to. I mean, nobody has to pat you on the back. Pats on the back don't come for free. Okay, you get stuck out in the forest. Nobody's there to pat you on the back, but you still got to do your part to survive. Okay,
Mm,
if you quit, boom, that's it. You're done.
mm.
Okay, I mean, look at it. Just take away all of the trappings of civilization. Put yourself in the forest and ask me, is this a right, or is this something that I have to work for?
Yeah.
So
I
there you
think
go.
my
My
take on
3 minutes.
that would be, if you personally decide that you're thinking about it, you're tempted by it, and you personally decide to do that,
Mhm.
it's not going to help you feel better about your job. And like
Oh,
I
that's
said,
true.
it's not going to help you feel better about your life in general, which
Mhm.
I think is contributing to the overall stress of the job, is just feeling like, well, my job sucks, my home life isn't what I want it to be, and all this other stuff. It's not going to help you feel better
Mhm.
to do the bare minimum and to do less, because that's not the way we're made. And
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
and the consequence of that, the likely outcome is, if the economy continues to be slack or continues to worsen, even further, which a lot of people
I
do
think
think
it
that's
will.
coming, and I
Mm-hmm.
agree.
It's coming.
I think
It's
that's the
coming.
likeliest,
Mm-hmm.
is that you're
The
the first on the
likeliest.
chopping block.
Yeah.
You're the
That's
first on
right.
the
Yeah.
chopping block.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the company brass is going to say, hey, either one, you're new, or
Mm-hmm.
two, you're not delivering. And then
Yeah.
that does create a cycle of now the people who were there doing more than the bare minimum
Now they have to do more.
now have to do more. On a company side,
Mm-hmm.
I do think asking for work outside the scope of a job description that you hired for is inappropriate.
No, I totally agree with you there.
I think
Absolutely.
you need to do your best to stick with what you hired somebody for, and be
Mm-hmm.
honest and treat people well in that respect. I think that's the best
Mm-hmm.
way to balance these things out. And I also think that asking people to be constantly available outside of working hours, unless that's part of their job description, unless they're on call.
I mean, yeah, if you walked in knowing that that's the job description, yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Right.
That's part of
Now,
the job.
yeah.
But
And
mhm.
if you let your bosses set up that precedent and it's not part of your job description, you're both at fault.
Mhm.
And like this is now an abusive boyfriend situation. And
Mhm.
you have to take
It's a good way to put that.
you have to take the stand and make
Mhm.
the call to say, either I'm gone, or I'm gonna man up, abusive boyfriend, or I'm going to
Hey, let's not be judgmental.
rise
Could be abuse.
personally
Mhm.
and basically not put up with the abuse anymore. And so, like, rather than just kind of quietly laying down and taking it and like, oh, maybe I can
Mhm.
get by and not get in trouble. Like, no, you go forward and you say, here are my complaints, and here's what needs to be fixed. And in some cases, you know, um, bringing in legal action might be appropriate potentially for some cases. Bringing in political action if it's a cultural thing that you've got that option.
Well, yeah, but remember, politics is downstream from culture, so you need to
I know.
start changing the culture.
Yeah.
In order to. Okay,
Right.
so.
Here's the last piece.
Mhm.
Culturally, economically, broader base. If this trend continues to grow, the economy gets worse because production drops. Inflation gets worse because there's less production,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
If there's not
That's
enough
right.
production, and I mean the supply chain issues, lack of goods at the stores, all this stuff gets worse. So your life
Yeah.
still gets worse
Mhm. Oh
because you're
yeah, you want to talk about
disengaging.
stress now? Good Lord,
Yeah.
wait till the stress comes from the other side. So
So I
real
don't
quick,
see good outcomes from this at all unless people decide, okay, I don't like this. I'm gonna purposely go and speak to the people who can actually make some changes and try to,
mhm.
be the greasy wheel if you got, or the squeaky wheel if you got to be. Um,
Greasy wheel.
I know that,
The greasy
yeah,
wheel. The
yeah. I know
Yeah,
that
you
there are
be the squeaky
people,
wheel and get the grease.
yeah, I
Get the
know that
problem solved. Yeah.
I know that there are people who would suggest, and who
Mhm.
probably are, if I haven't heard them, but I'll probably already are suggesting that this is the reason we had unions.
Yeah,
And
there would be people that suggest that this is the reason we have unions, but is
and
it
they
really
would
the reason we
suggest,
had unions?
they would suggest, businesses treating workers um, as
More
a
fairly,
commodity
yes.
rather than as people, and businesses
Mhm.
underpaying and businesses
Mhm.
overworking and all those sorts of things like that. Originally, historically, there was that was what inspired the unions. I think
Yeah,
the
I
unions have
mean,
outlived their usefulness
I
in
don't know,
those
they might be coming
areas.
back into favor because if things keep going the way they have been, they might be coming back into
That's what I'm
style.
saying.
I wouldn't say
That's
they're
what I'm
coming
saying.
back into
These
favor,
might
but
be arguments for the unions for
yeah,
people who support unionism,
it's the pendulum
but there's
swinging right back.
consequences to that again.
Sure, sure. I mean, but we're not here to talk about those consequences right now.
Mhm.
What are the
All right.
things that I mean, aside from going to your boss or to complain, being the squeaky wheel, um, putting in, yeah, the Bible says, do all to the glory of God. So do work as if you're working for God. I mean, the Bible's very clear about that.
Yeah.
Um, and so that, and honestly, there is a certain element of of satisfaction that you're going to get from that.
So I think
Maybe
from
not
a
in this life, but no, actually, no, I take it back. I mean, because even in jobs that I've had that were that were not rewarding at all, the work itself became rewarding. They were not rewarding, as like the management was not rewarding, but the work itself became rewarding. But um
I actually want to share a story real quick. And it's a
uh-oh.
story that we heard at our dad's retirement from the Navy.
That was a long time ago, dude.
I know it was a long time ago, but it stuck with me for a long time. And it's about the jobs that suck.
Mm.
So dad was a enlisted guy who wanted to get and be a Navy pilot.
Mhm.
He eventually became he flew A6 Corsair 2s.
A7 Corsairs.
A7. No,
Yeah.
I looked it up the other day.
You were wrong. It's A7.
Is it the A7?
Yeah.
Okay. The A7 was
Mhm.
the intruder, I thought.
A6 is the intruder. A7 is the
Oh, okay.
Corsair.
All right. A7 Corsairs, right? So he got to be there, right? But he had, when he applied for a school to become an aviator,
Mhm.
he had to have certain requirements and qualifications, one of which included a certain amount of time in service. And one of the jobs that he got early on that he absolutely hated
I
for
know this one.
months
I remember this now. Yeah.
was peeling potatoes.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I remember this
And he
one.
sat there every day and peeled potatoes. And that was his job in the Navy, serving his country. Meanwhile, he wanted to fly.
Mhm.
But when he got to the time where he was applying for A school, those few months peeling potatoes is what made it where he had enough time to qualify.
Mhm.
And that just stuck with me, because it's this idea of the job you're in now is not the job you're always going to be in. And a big part of you changing your circumstances and moving up, or finding more satisfaction in life, is how you engage in any given activity. If you're going to slack in one area, you're probably slacking in other areas. And when you slack, you didn't do your best. And that's a big part of where satisfaction comes from, and contentment is doing something important and doing your best at it.
Bingo. Yeah. I mean, I remember that story now that you told it. I mean, I remembered it before, but that's a very good one. Well, I mean, I remembered it because I was there, not for the potato peeling part, but
So,
but
so I think one of the things you can do personally, practically, and it doesn't sound practical, is to recover a reasonable, realistic understanding of work and satisfaction in life. And for Christians, that's a biblical understanding, because we think of work as bad, right? Work is awful. Work is hard. Work is toil. Work is just me sweating and I barely get anything for it. Like, no, that is not what work
who
is for.
told you that work was all those things? Well, who is telling you these
These are the
lies, man?
attitudes. These are the
Lies.
attitudes. The attitudes that people express when they talk about their
No.
work. Like, oh man, I gotta go to work.
Well, yes, and that is how we all do. I mean, the only other way that you
That's how
can
we
no,
do.
because I'm sorry.
How
I
we
mean,
all do.
everybody does it, even
Even if you
when
like
you're
your
starting
job,
out,
there is a little
especially.
bit of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and even when you do like your job, there is going to be a little bit of that. Ugh. But the more into your job and the more rewarding, the more fulfillment you get from your job, the less of that there is. So, like, for example, I
Yeah.
haven't felt that way much at all since I've started working for myself, and I
Yep.
think that that's something that um, that's another solution that people may want to embrace.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Well, we
instead
get back
because
to
now
that.
the expression, I mean, maybe not the expression, but somebody said once, why do you go give up your dreams so that you can sell your time and work on somebody else's dreams? Why don't you just go work on your dream? You know, or why don't you find something that you can do to solve someone else's problem and then charge them for it? Help make other people's dreams come true to help you make your dreams come true.
And people
So
have different dreams. Some people have an ambition to work for a certain company
sure they do. I mean, yeah. I
because
mean,
they
I.
admire it, they respect it, they respect somebody involved in it, whatever it is.
Mhm.
Your dreams are going to vary across the board. I think you go back to
Sure.
what Grandpa's little bit of wisdom was. Wherever
Wherever
you
you
go,
go,
there you are.
there you are.
And
Mhm.
if your attitude about work in general is, well, I have to do this. I
Mhm.
don't want to do it, but I have to do
Yeah.
it. Then you're missing out on one. You're missing out on greater potential for satisfaction in life, and you're missing out on the benefits and the blessings that work can be. Even when it is hard and it's not fun, there is an inherent thing in humans that when you do something hard successfully and you get to the other side, you feel pride, like genuine pride, not
Genuine.
like
Yeah. 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 Not like
genuine,
rainbow flag
meaningful
pride, but real pride of an accomplishment.
satisfaction in achievement and accomplishment.
Yeah.
And that is going to do more for your satisfaction in life than I'm just going to coast. Because honestly,
With hosting
having
culture, or it's just never going to do it for you. It never does it for anybody.
Yeah.
Why would it?
Yeah. I have another story.
You got two
Because
stories today?
I've been there. I've been the person
Oh,
who's
wow.
like, so I've been the person who was down, struggling with depression, going from a seriously, high level student at the time to barely passing, dropping classes, hours a night playing video games and feeling like I just don't have it to get this done. And getting in that cycle made me more depressed, made me less likely to go to class, less likely to do things, and kept making me make excuses that made my life harder. And that is where this quiet quitting is likely to lead you. Is you're going to quit in this area, and then you're going to feel like, well, I'm not living out, like you could do better, but you're deciding not to, and it drops you down a level. And then in your other areas of life, like your fitness, it drops you down a level. And you're like, I don't really want to get up because you've been playing video games all day. I don't want to work out. I don't want to eat well. I want to eat pizza and wings. And then you get fatter, and then you just keep spiraling down. And that's where I see this leading for a lot of people. The way out of it is to stop it and start doing the harder things, even if they're not right now satisfying, because in the future they will be.
That's right. I mean, what was that Michael Jordan quote? You mentioned it before we
Oh yeah,
started talking. I
Michael
mean,
Jordan said something
stop it.
about.
He said, "Stop it." No, that was
But
the
no,
meme. That was the meme.
he didn't say
But
stop it. He said
no, it's the meme. You never seen that meme of Michael Jordan? Stop it. Just
no, I
stop.
don't. Or maybe I
Oh,
have.
it's
I don't
hilarious.
remember.
You've probably seen it. No, anyway.
But this one was like, if you
If you
quit,
quit once,
it creates quit once, it
creates a
creates a
habit.
habit. So
And
never
you
give
do it
up.
again. Yes,
Yeah.
never give up. Yeah. So
And that's true.
that's a good point.
So I
Yeah,
think
I mean,
if you think about real quitting, you shouldn't be thinking about, I'm quitting this job because it sucks. You should be thinking about, I am changing to something better,
exactly.
or potentially changing
Exactly.
to something better.
Exactly. Because real quitting is giving up.
Yeah.
Never, ever, ever give up. What you do, and I tell my students or my clients that I coach, some of them, I said, you got to be consistent. And if you fail, you fall down, you take the failure and you build the step to the next level.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think this quiet quitting thing, if we think about it from that perspective, you're starting into a spiral. Well, you're already in the spiral. This is just a symptom
Oh,
of
you're
it.
in the spiral. You're going down.
Yeah,
This
this is
flat
a
spin.
symptom of
You're
it.
gonna. Mhm.
Then you're gonna keep going. You don't get out of that. What was I saying? What was I trying to say there? Oh, I think the overall stress from the craziness that the past 3 years has been, governmentally, economically, culturally, Yeah, right. Almost like governmentally, economically, culturally. There's been a lot of stress. This is the
Mhm.
symptom.
Yeah, yeah.
And
No,
man, I tell
I
you what,
totally agree. I
back up.
totally
You're
agree.
good. Hey, let's take a quick break for your sponsorship.
Oh, it's not a sponsorship. I looked all this talk about quiet quitting. I'm telling you, this stuff it is probably enough to make you go, what do I do to unquiet quit myself, or what do I do to make a difference? I can't make a difference in my job or whatever reason. If you have been looking for a way out, if you're looking for not a way to quit, but a way to apply yourself to something in the future, you can always try what I did. Amazing Talker is a platform that allows you to apply knowledge that you have accumulated over the years, whether it be your native language that you speak very well, or another language that you speak well, or maybe you're good at math, maybe you're good at accounting, maybe you're good at basket weaving. They've got it all on Amazing Talker, and you can provide your services for a fee. To other people who want to learn what you know. Check it out. If you want to know more, check me out on Instagram.com. Leave me a picture or comment amazing in the description or in the comment, not the description, down in the comments. Just leave a comment. Amazing if you want to know how you can join the fun. Because let me tell you, I have never had so much fun. Because I've never had more fun. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. Never had more fun than I do now. I enjoy sharing my knowledge with other people and getting paid for it. And that's all I got to say
Okay,
about that.
cool, bro.
Yeah.
All right, all right.
So, do we have any wisdom
I
or
think
foolishness that we want to
let me
avoid?
let me let me ask you one last kind of question about all this. What are the what? So other than reframing your ideas about work,
Mhm.
and you kind of hinted at a couple of other ideas about maybe you need a new place to go for your work, or maybe you need a new uh maybe you're maybe
A new
you
direction.
need to
Yeah. Yeah.
consider a new direction, which is working for
Mhm.
yourself. What are some basic practical things that would help somebody who's tempted by quiet quitting or who's already in the middle of it?
Um, man, I tell you what. First thing I would have to say, disconnect. First thing you should do, I mean, if you got to
Well,
stay with your
well,
job, stay with your disconnect from the electronics.
explain that. Okay.
Disconnect from, well, let me finish explaining, man. Shut your phone off when you get home, when you get on, shut your phone off, shut the podcasts off. Just take the time to electronifies yourself. I just made that word up.
Electronic
Electronifies.
fies.
Yeah. So, yeah, just turn your phone off, turn off the podcast, turn off everything. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love all of those things. Technology has been a great thing for us to be able to have access to this stuff, but
Yeah.
you need to take a break.
Give your brain a
Get a
break.
book. Give a brain a break. Get a book or do what I do. Go for a walk every day, every single day. Get outside, go for a walk. If you can only do 30 minutes, go for a walk for 30 minutes. Get some fresh air. If it's
Yeah.
raining, if it's raining outside, I go down to my carport and just walk in circles sometimes, or sometimes just get the umbrella and walk down the street if it's not raining too hard. But yeah, get outside and get some exercise first and foremost. Then you'll be able to think more clearly and be more rational about your decisions. Okay.
Hmm.
Um, Now, and then from the practical standpoint, start educating yourself about other options. Because
Mhm.
when you get yourself stuck in this little cubby hole, you feel like you're backed into a corner. You feel like you've only got two options. You either fight or you roll up in a ball and take whatever you've got. And you know,
You can't
the
run
other
away.
option is the that's the thing that you forget. You forget you can run away. You have
Run
the ability to run
away.
away. No, seriously. Um,
It's not the only
I,
option, but
no, I mean that's another one of the options. You can hide, hunker
yeah.
down, fight, or you can run away, fight or flight, right? But but that hunker down thing is something that I think is what a lot of people do because they
Mm.
feel like they just quit. They're just like, okay, well, there it is, quiet quitting. Quiet quitting means that they've given up. They're not giving up on the job, they're giving up on themselves. So don't give up on your
That's what I was trying to say a few minutes ago.
Oh,
They're not
okay.
just
Well, there
giving
you
up
go.
on the jobs; they're giving up on life. Yes.
Yeah, that's what it is. You're giving up on life, your future, your current self and your future self. And if you have a
Mm.
family, your family's future.
Your
And
family
that's,
self.
your family self. And I feel horrible for the
Mm.
people in China who do this, in Taiwan, well, especially China, because they live in a communist country, communist society, and it's not, you know, um, but so when they do it, they don't see a future for themselves
Mhm.
because there really isn't one, and
Yeah.
literally living for the moment. So don't
Yeah.
just live for the moment, live for the future,
Desperation. Yeah.
and 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 try to make the world a better place. You are put on the world, created by the Father in the image of the Father, and He is ultimately a creator. So go
Mm.
create, go
Mm.
create.
I like that.
Okay, that's
I
why we're
think
here.
one of those, for me, one of those areas of rearranging your mindset is that getting out of the cultural, uh, what's the word? Oh, I might be lost here because we have a thunderstorm rolling through. So if I
Is that what
suddenly
that
blank
flashing
out,
is?
that's what
Okay,
that
okay.
flashing is.
All
Yeah.
right, well, we got to wrap
The
it up here
lights,
pretty soon anyway.
lights just flashed. Anyway, get out of the bifurcated concept of life as work and play.
Hmm. Yeah.
People do that all the time. It's secular and sacred. There's the religious side, and it's like the Bible doesn't see it that way, and
Hmm.
most people don't. Like, we shouldn't see it that way, because there's more to life. There is work, there is play, there's also purpose, there's also the idea of making things better, there's other things, right? There's rest.
Hmm.
So
There's
if you
rest.
get out and you look, a lot of this goes to changing your perspective. If you feel
Yeah.
like your only option is to quit or lay down, there are other options. So
Yeah.
when you shut off your phone, and when you shut off the inputs, then you give yourself time to think,
Yeah.
and then you can go out and see other potential options. Um, I do like the idea of education outside of your normal field or whatever. Uh,
Yeah.
Hobbies are, I mean, that's what hobbies used to be for, but
Oh,
now we also
hobbies are
feel so
great. Yes.
crazy busy. Guess what? The other thing is, you can't do it all. So you need to prioritize what
Hmm.
matters to you.
Yeah.
And so,
Absolutely. Priorities.
and maybe through all of this kind of soul searching stuff, you find out that you are in a bad work situation and you do need to change, but you should still be giving your all through the change,
Hmm.
because that is what's going to help you, one, make the change better and lead to more satisfaction through it all. But you know what? Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, you
There,
get a good reference from the boss when you say, "Hey, you know what? You
that helps too.
Um,
So change your
there's
mind
something
and
that
then
there
make your,
there's a change your mind section that you're talking, not section, but the point about changing your mind. I used to tell people all the time when I had a job, hey, if you can't have fun at work, where can you have fun? Because I'm a goofball. I like to have fun. And because it makes work much more interesting when you try to make it more interesting.
yeah.
Life and work are not meant to be separated. You live when you are at work. You live when you're at home. You live when you're at,
Hmm.
so, so, you got to find the enjoyment where you are. Find,
Yeah.
it's all about your mentality. So if you're
Yeah.
looking for things to complain about, you're looking for things to be hard, you're going to find it. But if you're looking
because
for things to be
because wherever
joyful
you
about,
wherever you go, there you are. I mean,
oh,
again.
there it is again. And here we are again. Here we are again. All right.
I think it's the same mentality as people who are graduating from high school or from college, or before they're getting to that point. They're thinking, what's happening now doesn't really matter. Life
Yeah.
starts when, and that's just not the truth. Life is
Mhm.
any moment you're alive. So you gotta get those things. So the other part of the technology, maybe you do have another thing. Find some deep purpose in life.
Mhm.
It could be work. It could be family. And then finally, relationships. We get back to the 5 F's, really.
We always come back to the five
Take
F's.
care of
I
your
mean, we don't have
spirit.
time to get into them
Take care of your
right now,
spirit.
but
Take care of your relationships. Take care of your financial situation. Take care of your health. And then, have some
fun.
freedom and enjoy it. Yeah. There we go.
Wait, we switched. You said freedom, I said fun. What's going on? No, it was the other way around
I'm
before. But
blending them. I'm blending them.
that's
Yeah.
funny. That was good. That was good. That was good.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
We
All
didn't
right.
even
So
frame
we do have the fool's errand
thunderstorm.
potential here.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fool's
Real
errand.
quick, because here's what I think. We do have to acknowledge that all of this is hard. Life is going to be hard, but then you get ideas like this. God gave you this life because he knows that you're strong enough to live it. Don't give up. That, in my mind, is depressing.
Yeah. I mean, God, it's really. That doesn't. I mean, first of all, it doesn't sound like the God that I know. Because
Exactly.
the God that I know is there.
He's not
he
Caesar
didn't
overseeing the gladiator games.
Yeah, he didn't give us this life because he knows we're strong. He gave it this life because he wants to share it with us.
Mm-hmm.
He gave us the
Beautiful.
life because he's generous, and that's the beauty of it, is that you're not in this alone. This quote is depressing because it says, "Hey, you're strong enough. You can do it."
Yeah.
It says, "Hey, you're all by yourself.
Makes you Atlas.
That's what it does. Yeah. And I don't like Atlas. I like atlases because they're cool. They have maps inside and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, this is a horrible, really. Yeah. See what I did there?
Yeah.
That's a horrible quote. Ooh, what a horrible, depressing thing to say.
Not what's funny is it's from the Bright quotes. And I don't feel like that's very bright perspective.
Quote.
But it's not uncommon to feel like that. I mean, this is the hustle mentality. It's the God won't give you more than you can handle mentality, which is just not true. Over and over again in scripture, we see God giving people more than they can handle so that they learn to rely on him.
Exactly. They have to rely on him. Absolutely.
And I think that's the thing.
Some of the best stories in the Old Testament are stories of God saying, taking things away. I mean, look at the story of Gideon. I mean, one of my favorites. He's just taken away from the army. There you go. Okay. Now you got 300. Go have fun. Okay. But you got to rely on God. That's exactly right. He knows.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Go ahead.
So I think in terms of what we've been talking about, the answer to being burned out is not just be stronger and you'll get through it, man. Don't give up.
Right.
And rely completely on yourself. The answer is find the community and maybe even the faith in a being that is bigger and greater and more powerful and more loving than you know. And pour into those things and let yourself rest in those things. And you will find more strength than you have ever believed in.
Well, absolutely. And I think that's exactly right. I like the way you said, let yourself rest. God, because the Bible talks about a lot coming into the rest of God, God's rest. God rested on the seventh day, and he talks about it in Hebrews. He invited the Hebrews into their rest. He's inviting you through Jesus' sacrifice. Jesus invites us into God's rest. And so what a place to be is in the rest of God, not just, and remember, when God rested, it's because all the work was done.
Yeah.
So
he didn't quite quit.
He got it done, and then he rested. So big one on that one. I think I don't know that I don't know if we could end it on anything better than that.
I love it. Hey, if you stuck with us this long, we appreciate it. I hope that last part especially was encouraging. And we are Dads Save the Internet. We are a couple of dads who are trying to share some of the things we've learned that maybe were gaps in our own childhood and where we weren't fathered as well as we could have been. And we're trying to share those things with other guys who maybe, hey, we all have gaps
Mhm.
that our father didn't teach us, or he couldn't get to, or he wasn't there, or whatever the situation was.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can encourage each other and maybe provide a little fathering virtually.
Virtual fathers. Oh my gosh, the world and we live in. All right, brother. I love you, and
I
thank
love
you
you too.
everybody for joining us. And we're every other Wednesday at 12 p.m. Mountain Time, or Thursday morning at 3 a.m. Korea Standard Time. Or for my folks in Taiwan, that's 2 a.m. Taiwan time, or Taipei time, wherever you want to count that from. I don't know what they do.
All
It's
right.
Anyway. It's it's time for me to go to bed. But all right.
Good night
Good night.
and Godspeed.
Yeah, amen to that.